You're now listening to the Something Good Podcast Network. Please press any key to continue.
A new chapter this morning in the battle against Ebola.
Nickelback are back. The multi-platinum band has just announced a new album and a North American summer.
Until you see the flaming butthole, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Something good for ya. How long has it been since you had something good?
All right, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Something Good For You podcast, where it's usually the two of us sifting through some bullshit to try to find some good shit to show you, but I actually don't have Dave with me this week, and holy shit, you're actually seeing my face, which means for this episode, and hopefully all of them moving forward, there's going to be a video companion to these podcasts, so that's really fun. I finally got my background set up. I need to maybe work on my lighting a little bit, but you know, hey, that's what I get to do in post, but unfortunately, you know, it's not much I can do once it gets into the interview. And speaking of interview, that's the reason for the whole video companion this week. I am sitting down with the one and only David Devine. Most of you guys are probably gonna know him because he was the vocalist for the Marky Ramone band for a couple years, between the years of like 2004, 2005, and then kind of sprinkled on throughout. But I mean, he's had so many other great stories, so many other great experiences with the Knockouts, Cheap Vinyl, Pricilla, and we even discussed the song Thinkin About You, which is a song that you guys might know if you have the Fill-In's last record, never heard of them. So without further delay, let's go ahead and get on into that interview. Ladies and gentlemen, I am more than pleased and honored to have David Devine here on the show with us.
Hey, thank you, Alex. It's great to be here. Finally, we made it work. We've been talking about doing this for quite a few years, and here we are. We're sitting here.
I know.
Finally talking.
I was thinking about it, and the first time we actually brought this up was when I asked you if I could cover that song, because afterward I was just like, and by the way, I have like this podcast thing I'm starting up. You should totally get on. That was the last time we spoke.
Well, it took a while, but we definitely got on. So yeah, that was great. Yeah, and the song came out great, by the way. Yeah, came out.
Oh, we'll get into that, because that was a kind of a personal little mark for me. It's just like, you know, something I really wanted to be able to do. But honestly, we've been kind of talking before we hit the record button. We kind of discussed maybe where we want to go with this. But first off, I really do have to ask, because I ask this among anyone that comes on the show. When you were growing up, what is the earliest memory you have of hearing a band or a song and just going, holy hell, I like music?
Right. Yeah. With your posters, you're pretty spot on with my influences too. Kiss, definitely, obviously Kiss. I think around, for me, I think I discovered them around 77 with I think Alive 2 was the first album I had. And, I think that was out then. But anyway, yeah, I fell in love. Of course, the Kiss dolls were big then too, you know, so you had to have the Kiss dolls. But yeah, that was the first band that I heard that really made me think that music is super important to me. It just resonated with me as a kid. I don't know if it was the theatrics or the music that drew me in more.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah, probably it was probably split right down the middle. I guess I'm sure I love the music, but I think the theatrics really, and looking at the album art, that was a double, you know, like it had a gatefold with the whole stage in there, you know, the famous photo with the guys that they've actually taken pictures of them more recently. That were standing there at the Kiss concert. But so I think it was the theatrics, and I think Phantom of the Park came out around that time ish. And you know, again, that movie gets ragged on a lot, but as a kid, just seeing Gene Simmons around a swimming pool dressed as Gene Simmons.
Star Child.
Yeah, I love it. And so I think that was it. I mean, I think until Motley Crue, I think it was 81. when Shout Out the Devil came out, I remember that being a pretty big influence on me. And then, of course, Guns N' Roses. But yeah, Kiss definitely started it off. Yeah, for me and a lot of other people, obviously.
And I do find that interesting because even people that are like in the hardcore metal scene or like, you know, gutter punks, they always find some way to go, and you know what? Somewhere down the line, Kiss really turned me on to rock and roll.
Yeah.
Yet, they are still one of the most controversially hated bands, period. Like, I still feel like I have a target on my back when I go, I like Kiss. It's like there is still one motherfucker in the back with a blow dart going,
right, yeah. Oh, Kiss. Well, I mean, it's because it's the same reason. Well, I don't know. It's the same reason it took them a while to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now, I know some of it probably was that Kiss had their own demands. Probably, I would imagine it would have to be, right. But also,
we heard some of that during the process because the Hall was wanting the original four to perform. And they were no, we're not doing that. And they were also, but then Kiss was also like, but we also want Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer in there as well. And the Hall was like, no.
Oh yeah, which one? Yeah. So, and then I think the people that could vote him in. I mean, I've heard sometimes the people that vote him in don't make a lot of sense. I forget who it was. What guitar? I'll have to think about it for a second. But I know I heard they were making some comments about this guy, the guy that played Rumble. Anyway, they finally let him in, but some writers were like, you know, we don't think he belongs in there. Although Rumble was, you know, such a great rock and roll anthem guitar, it was just instrumental. But I think the same thing with Kiss. I think the theatrics, which I loved as a kid, through the voters, you know, they felt that they maybe thought about that more than the lyric writing or whatever.
Well, I mean, people still try to say that now. It's like, oh, it's just the band with the makeup. And it's like, well, you know, I don't see that when I'm, you know, listening to I Stole Your Love, you know, on my mix. So
right. You don't see the makeup, right. But I love one of my favorite Kiss stories is that they started, speaking of bands with makeup, they started out opening for the New York Dolls, which would later in my teenage years go on to be one of my biggest influences, as well as the Dogs D'Amour from England, which was, both bands were harder to find the material, but both underrated bands in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. No, honestly, you do hear, you know, the traditional, you know, where are your favorite bands? Oh, you know, the Ramones, you know, Misfits, you know, it's like, you know, the Sex Pistols, Black Flag, you know, you're the Four Horsemen, the trading cards of the punk rock bands. I don't hear a lot of people throw nods toward the Damned. And also don't hear people throw nods toward the New York Dolls nearly as much as they should.
Right. Yeah. Which I don't well, it's weird. Yeah. Well, I guess because they were more, instead of where Kiss was dressed, you know, as characters, the New York Dolls were in drag. So maybe that's, you know, what really throws people off. But that stuff is great. The Johnny Thunders, whatever he's doing, even if he's making mistakes, it sounds great to me. Sounds great to me. But then when they did the two newer albums with Steve Conte, those were great too. I think Maimed Happiness off It'll Please Us Once to see this, that Maimed Happiness and some other great songs, just great writing. I think Joe Hansen has always been one of my favorites. Yeah, David Joe Hansen.
I hadn't visited that record in a long time, but every time I talk to someone that's a serious New York Dolls fan, they always kind of give that record that extra nod at the end of their conversation going, and that record's not too bad, by the way. You ought to check it out.
Yeah, it's not. Haven't. And I think Sammy Yaffa played bass on that too. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple songs that are slow, you know, harder for me to get into. But most of that album is fantastic. It's just absolutely fantastic. I listened to it quite a while, and then whatever the follow-up album was a little more bluesy, but it was good in its own right. But yeah, the Dolls are just, I love them.
And you just can't touch a band like the Dolls. Like, for instance, that I feel that there are a handful of bands that just you don't need to throw covers in your sets. One is Iggy Pop. No one can cover Iggy Pop like Iggy Pop can play it.
Right.
And the Dolls are also in that front. It's like, don't attempt a Dolls song. It doesn't, you're not going to do it as good as they do. And the Krause is going to sit here going, okay, when's your song coming up?
Yeah. All right. Enough of personality crisis. We've heard it before.
You're not playing it the way you're supposed to. You don't have the fingers. It's not. You can buy the amp. You can buy the amp. You can buy the guitar. You can be a nerd and like zoom in and get the exact dial in on your amp. But if you don't have the hands, it's not going to be there.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes all of these bands just so important. It isn't necessarily that they're such amazing musicians and craftsmen of, songwriting prowess. It's what they do with that limitation or that strength that makes it so good.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. They did have some sort of like Rolling Stones thing going, between the guitar players that were just with the open chords and I think that when people do covers, personality crisis included, I think you try to do it too punk, and it just doesn't work. It needs that open sloppiness in there,
that looseness
that you can't learn. I don't know if you can learn. I mean, I guess you can sort of learn it, but we're talking music when you're talking about Mark's drum technique. That was Johnny's signature guitar technique for the Dolls. I think that you can't. Yeah, there's just something you can't reproduce about that.
Well, and to kind of maybe pivot into that, we can talk about, if you don't have the hands, you can't, mimic it in the exact same way that, someone like a Joey uses their voice in such a way that it's a secondary instrument. Not even put someone like John Lennon in that. When you listen to the Sex Pistols, a lot of the times the guitar is really just chugging along on one main note, but Lydon is the one carrying that melody and creating that thing that you're wanting to sing along to. Joey would do the same thing. And by that token, I want to say that's probably why you have been, out of all the different vocalists I've heard with singing with Marky, probably my favorite, even though I've got a bunch of Misfits posters and I'm a huge, 90s era Graves, Michael, Misfits fan. Okay, yeah, shoot me now. I know I'm a fucking poser. What the fuck ever.
Great stuff.
When it comes to all that though, you didn't sing exactly like Joey, but you had the attitude of it. You had the melody of it. You weren't emulating him. You were using your voice. And I think that's why it translated so well, is your voice naturally has that little bit of that crooner, almost raspiness to it that works with a Joey. And I think that's why I've even enjoyed so many of your solo projects throughout the years. And with that in mind, what was probably the first band that you formed that you kind of look back on and go, you know what, that was my first real band?
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, the Knockouts. For me, it was the Knockouts. And it's funny. Thank you, by the way, for saying all that. But yeah, the Knockouts that we had in the Cleveland area, and I played with them for, 8-ish years or something. But we tried to, it's funny that you say all that, because I remember, at that time, the bands previous to that, I was trying to sing with like a high register, which was so popular at the time. Every band had a high range singer. I don't have that at all whatsoever, and it was horrible. And I was trying to do it. And it's just at some point you have to say, all right, that's not your voice. No matter if it's the most popular thing in the world, whatever, that's not your voice. And I think I think the people I was playing with said, just sing like the people you like, Joey Ramone, Tyler from Dogs to More, stuff like that. And it kind of went off. Oh, okay. That you could use that as an asset, because again, that time period was all about high voices, And Joey, like exactly what.
And what time? And sorry, not to interrupt. What time period would this exactly be?
Well, that would be the late '80s, early '90s.
Okay.
And again, the Ramones were going, but Brain Drain was out. And I love Joey. Joey was always one of my favorites. And like you said, he had enough of that 50s tone in there. That's why he was such an asset to the band. He could sing as punk as you wanted to, or, you know, the sessions with Phil Spector where they kind of went off, and then Joey did some of the, you know, Be My Baby and some of the other stuff. That's why he was such an asset. Or even when he did branched off and did a couple solo songs or whatever. That's why he was such an asset, because he could blend in. He was like the, you know, the biggest punk rock legend with arguably not the punk rock voice, right? He had more of a crooner type voice, but he could get raw if he needed to, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But that's when, I think that someone even used that as an example back then. Don't try to sing high, you know. Obviously, you suck when you do that, you know. And you suck less when you don't do that. So stick with that.
And you know what? Every vocalist needs that guy to kick them in the ass and be like, dude, whatever you're doing right now, you need to stop.
Right. Yeah. Don't be. Yeah. Well, I remember at that time with the band, it was the same guys in a different band before the Knockouts, but they had a singer and an album out where the guy just had this high voice, and I was trying to do that, you know, and it was just a mistake, just terrible, you know, just terrible. So yeah, that's a lesson. Don't try to be something you're not. Stay in your lane. You know?
With the Knockouts, did you guys release any records or EPs?
Yeah, we recorded a bunch. But mainly at that time, it was mainly just selling stuff at shows. We did have some cool songs. We did record a couple cool songs. One was "I Want to Be a Wannabe," which was a really great song. I think I still have that laying around here somewhere. But that was one that I really liked, and we had a couple, but we were, again, constantly recording, but constantly band member changing, and you know how that goes. And so
unfortunately,
so that kind of stuff. But that band always, and every once in a while we do still play a show here and there, which is cool. Luckily we came out of all that friends as much as you can. Because it was just constant replacing and fighting. But yeah, we had some really great songs. We did record on several occasions. Yeah.
Good deal. No, I definitely want to see. That's the crazy thing is, you know, I try to do my due diligence, you know, if I have someone on the show and it's like, man, you are hard to research. You are hard to dig in and find any sort of thing on. And it's just like going into this, the only three I knew for a fact were Black Stars, Mark, and Mesz. And I was just like, I know there's more. There's got to be more. So it's like, I'm actually really glad to be able to dig in and learn, you know, a little bit more of this history, because to me, all of this kind of music is so important. You know, and there's so much of this kind of music that just winds up kind of getting not really forgotten, because it's always lived on in your memory. It's lived on in the memories of the fans that saw it. But for someone like me, I never knew about that. So, you know, that's why I love hearing about this stuff.
Yeah, there was that one. And then as you're saying it, that hard to research, the next band that was probably arguably more or most important was the next band that I was in just for a few years after that, which was Cheap Vinyl, which is tattooed on my arm. You'll see Cheap Vinyl. And we had some really great songs there too, and that I'm really proud of. In fact, one of them, like Blame, was re-recorded by Pricilla, which is a really great song. I'm really proud of that one too. So, but again, yeah, it's harder to research. I don't know how much of that stuff's up on YouTube. I may or may not have one on my own YouTube channel, but early on I put them up, and then I was getting copyright claims on my own material. So I think eventually I'll probably put a couple more of those up. Again, they're just laying around on CDs. It's just a matter of doing it again, but yeah, with the copyright claim.
No, that is funny though, because when you release stuff through CD Baby, if you opt in for it's so fucked up. You have to, it's the same button. If you opt in to allow your songs to be used in like Instagram stories and stuff like that, at the same time, it will run like that robot automation stuff and check like all YouTube videos. So like I'll start making promo videos for like the new record, and it's just like, you can't do that. And I'm like, bitch, this is my song.
They don't care about that. Yeah, I just put up a Pricilla song. I think it was a live recording that they put up. One of the tunes that we play on there. I made a video, and I think it lasted once. I even named it something else, but I think it lasted like a minute before it got copyright claim, which is fine. I mean, it's fine until you start getting thousands of views. Then it's not fine, but
no, then it's just like, where's where's this going?
And if it's your own song, you're splitting the money with yourself, right? But how are you getting that other half of the money? I don't know.
It all goes to the cloud gods.
Yeah. Someone somewhere is buying a candy bar with that half money.
So you mentioned a second ago the importance of cheap vinyl. So where does cheap vinyl lay in the history of David and the importance of?
Well, that was when I started playing with Marky. I was playing with cheap vinyl. So, and what was cool about that band is we did have a handful of really cool songs. Some that I'm not so proud of, but some that I'm actually really proud of. We had some really good songs. We were doing really great shows. And when I started playing with Mark, we were doing the same stuff. We were playing at the Rock Hall. We were playing really, really big events. Cleveland at that time, Indians, before they changed the name, Stadium and stuff. We were doing some really cool shows at that time when I met Mark. So that's why it was so important, because I mean, it really had some momentum. And then, but then at that, there was a point where I had to choose because I was gone then all the time with Mark. And so that kind of made that fizzle out. But those were really great songs. In fact, I've played them at, different places around the world. I played some of those songs nights. Like I remember once in South America, the night before our show at this little club in Calafate, the night before, the owner asked, so we went down and played a whole bunch of cheap vinyl songs with the guy, whoever was playing guitar and bass at the time with Mark. And the club owner asked us back. So that was kind of cool. Yeah. But yeah, I really like those songs. So they always have a pretty good place in my heart. Yeah.
Well, since the road seems to be kind of leading in this direction, I'll kind of reel it back a little bit and kind of set that up. Did you ever get to see the Ramones live?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In fact, just around the corner, I have Joey's autograph on a ticket stub here.
Oh, wow.
From back in those days. And I think that was from 96 ish at a place called the Empire in Cleveland. And I'm pretty sure we'll have to do some deep research on this, but I'm pretty sure that I saw them at a place called JB's in Kent, Ohio, and I believe it was like I used to go there all the time to see my buddy's band, and they were great. The High Plains Drifters, they were really great. But I think that the Ramones played there, and I think that was the first time I seen them, and so I think JB's in Kent, Ohio, and it was a small place. I'm pretty sure, unless I'm not making that up. I don't think. I think that was.
Hey, I believe you. I trust you.
Yeah, and the next time I saw them, I think was that Empire show, and I remember being in the front row ish, and they came out with whatever, just power. It was just power. That's the only way I can describe it. And the movement of the people moved me from the front row-ish all the way to the back, involuntarily, because they did, and it was wow. I remember the JB's show was more record-like, but that time at the Empire was more live Ramones-like, and it, everything was twice as fast, just power, man. It was crazy. And I think I've seen them a few times since then, other than that, but those two are memorable for sure.
Yeah. So was that so when going to those shows, were you like finding ways to kind of meet up with members, or how did your line eventually cross with Mark's and him kind of get the attention of like, oh, this dude can actually sing some songs?
Yeah, no, I was never really too much an autograph guy, or I didn't really need to meet the band. I guess I was never, I don't know why I was never, well, because I had buddies that did it, but I know if you're into that game, or I learned early on that's like a thing. Like if the band's playing at 11, you got to go downtown at like noon, or you know what I mean? And it was a whole like hunting, and I just was never into that scene, or maybe I just didn't have the time. That could have been too. But,
no, it definitely takes a certain personality, because I'm the kind of person, like, when we met, you just walked out and you were hanging out in the crowd. So it's
right.
like, that was one thing. We were not gonna, like, even for Mark, we were not going to do anything more than hang around for a couple minutes and see if he shows up, and oh, he's already at the trailer, okay, we're gonna leave. It's like it takes a special kind of person to like want to hang out. Yeah,
exactly. And I've done some of that. I mean, I that's how I met Zakk Wylde. I met Zakk Wylde by going down to the radio station early and stuff like that. So nothing against that. Just at that point, I really wasn't. But I think I was with somebody, and I think she knew how much I loved Joey, and she thought it would be cool. And somehow it was just happenstance that it worked out, because I think it was I had help from her, and so yeah, I still have that autographed ticket stub from Joey at that
Love
time.
That.
Yeah, and so that's all thanks to her. But other than that, I never met Johnny or Dee Dee. Mm-hmm. Just Joey, and then obviously Mark.
Right.
Yeah.
So at what point? So did Marky put out a call saying he was looking for singers? Did he just see Cheap Vinyl play and come talk? I mean, how did that interaction begin?
No, well, they were inducted in 2002, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame started doing induction or inductee concert series, and I think I don't know why. I know a buddy of mine played with Glenn Matlock there prior to that, so that's when that kind of came into my radar. But and then obviously. Johnny wasn't playing. Joey had passed away by the time this came, and so did Dee Dee. This came about, and so I think they asked Mark to play the Rock Hall. Now, the guy that played the guitar for us for a couple years there anyway, CJ Gunn, had, I think, at least roadied or knew Mark. CJ knew Mark for years, since he was a kid. CJ was one of those guys that would go down at noon to meet, and he did that probably every time. He was the hugest Ramones fan in the world, and so that being said, he called me, CJ did, and asked if I wanted to audition, and we met in and he was like, all right, well, 2 days from now we'll meet at this house, and we'll practice with Mark and see if it works, and then if it does, you can play at the Rock Hall. Now, I was kind of freaking out, like, to get all this information.
I know, right? Because I was gonna say, let's not jump over all this way too quick. It's like, you go from, as we were talking about earlier, how important bands like Kiss and Ramones were, to all of a sudden, CJ Gunn reaching out to you and being like, do you want to try out singing? I mean, do you not just automatically exude all bowels at that point and then faint and come back? I mean, or do you just like completely, you're just almost playing it cool and it doesn't hit?
Well, yeah, it's kind of weird. You bring it. I've had, like we said, before the show started, I haven't talked about any of this stuff really, and so all these memories are hitting me, and this is crazy. It's like, this is your life. But at that time, I was telling you, Cheap Vinyl were doing a lot of the big shows, and I think if we hadn't been doing that at that time period, I probably would have freaked out a little bit more.
Gotcha.
But because there was like, you know, we were opening for like the Cleveland Orchestra and doing, you know, just all these weird things that I was already in that, like, I don't know how to describe it.
It was part of the trajectory almost.
Yeah,
like it felt like you're like, okay, this would be the next step. This feels cool.
Yeah, there was like, it was like I was mentally in that realm where, oh, this isn't weird. Now, like 2 years prior, had you told me, I would have been like, you know, I might have been like you're saying, just freaking out, or this is too weird, or it's like, you know, fiction. I don't know, but
Right.
I don't know. But I think that those shows had me prepared for that. But yeah, because I can't remember it seeming odd. I think it was just like, oh, all right, cool. How many? But the only thing that was overwhelming was it's like, well, learn these 30 songs, you know. We'll see on Tuesday, you know. And so I was like, and although I was a huge Ramones fan, but there's a difference between listening to the Ramones and knowing every word and then performing it in front of Mark. You know, it's a pretty big difference. So, you know, and but
I was gonna say, how do you calm? Like, I don't care who you are. If you are a fan of a band and one of the members is like, hey, you want to come jam? How do you even calm the nerves on that? Especially as we were mentioning earlier, you know, how important of a role, you know, the vocals do play. You're going to be now that centerpiece. Like, I can't imagine.
Yeah. No, again, if it had been any other time period of my life, it would have been maybe bizarre, and there would have been nerves and stuff. But I don't know, it kind of lined up where, yeah, I mean,
and that confidence probably came through in your performance.
Yeah, it probably did. It wasn't phasing me at that time for some reason. It's kind of weird. I have never thought about that, to be honest with you. That's a really great question. But I think that it was just kind of like everything was like weird. You know, it was just this like ride I was on at the time. And that was just part of it. And I was fortunate enough to be able to say, yeah, let's go. Let's keep riding. One more time, you know? And it was great. It was so great. Yeah.
So you do the Rock Hall band. Was it kind of presented as an idea of, you know, you're going to kind of do this show for this special event and then, you know, thanks a lot, man, had a great time? Or was it under the pretense of, hey, if this works out and we get a good response, we might have a few other shows lined up, but we'll see?
Yeah, no, there were no other shows. It was just that show, which maybe that made it a little bit easier. I don't know. Maybe that made it a little bit easier. There was snow. It was just, yeah, we're doing this. It was a special event. That I don't know how many previous shows they had to that capacity where Mark came out. He did an interview with the curator of the Rock Hall. And then he said, all right, let's play some songs, you know. And then we did. And it was Daniel Ray was playing bass and CJ and then Mark. But one of the cool things at that time was that I don't know that Mark had been in the Rock Hall before that, but they took us around with Mark and we got to sit down and watch like a, you know, 20-minute video they had of the inductees, and to watch him watch himself was pretty cool and badass, you know, watching him watch himself on the screen. But then at that time, and this is kind of the weirdness, you know, then they were like, want to go down in the basement where they have the vaults. Yeah, obviously. So we all went down there. And down there,
we wrote an entire song about not doing this, but sure, why the fuck not?
Right. And so they took us down there, and down there they put stuff before they put it out on in the Rock Hall, because down there they got to come up with a insurance price on it before they'll put it out on the floor, you know. And we would see down there, you know, they had some of Mark's snare drums and stuff that they hadn't even put out yet, and he was asking him, why don't you put this out, you know. And some sneakers or whatever that he calls them, sneakers, Converse or whatever they were, not other than Converse, the knockoff Keds, I don't know what it was, but then they would bring out like the two things that were like just adding to the weirdness at the time, where they opened one of the vaults, boom, here comes the box. The curator's got gloves, and they had Bob Marley's dreadlock in there.
What?
Yeah. So I was like, whoa. I don't know if it's out on the floor or ever has been, but we saw that. And then out of the vaults, they brought the 2 John Lennon Bed In for Peace guitars out of a vault that him and Yoko, did those at least 2 Bed In for Pieces. And both times on an acoustic guitar, he drew, and I believe it was his John Lennon style cartoonish figure of him and Yoko in bed on those acoustic guitars that they brought out, which I was always a John Lennon fan too. So that freaked me out. And a Bob Marley. I mean, those were things that were just priceless. But I mean, that was just piling on the weirdness of stuff like, all right, let's go. Let's bring it on.
I am very surprised that no one has asked you or wanted you to like talk about that. So you have got to write a book, man, because I know my audience. You've got to get these like stories out to like a wider audience, because this is just amazing stuff, man.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've been actually on my YouTube channel. We've had, in fact, I just got an author that was on a couple weeks ago. He just sent me his books in the mail. And I think this week we had a guy that owns a publishing company, and I have written stuff that I do eventually want to put out there. But again, I kind of want to make it fictional, which I've done in the writing, but I have to put it all together, fix the spelling, blah blah blah, doing that stuff that I hate. And I think that's the only thing that's held me back, because I have the material, I think, but I'm not great at typing, and I hate office work and all that, but I do need to do that, I think, too, because some of these stories are fun. Yeah.
And to put a pin on that, something you mentioned a minute ago, you being a big Lennon fan, I do have to ask, what did you think of the new Beatles song, or the quote unquote new Beatles song, if you've heard it yet?
Yeah. I heard it on a radio station that was playing it. I need to, actually, I don't know when it came out. I think yesterday I heard it, and it reminded me, oh yeah, I got to check that out. Because prior to that, I was wrapped up in the new Mick Mars song. Okay, so but then,
I haven't checked that out.
All right, so we both have homework, because
yes.
The Beatles song I heard, but someone was commenting over the top of it, and so I need to go back and really check it out, which I'm surprised I haven't, other than I have been busy. But in their commentary, they were saying something about John's voice, and I don't know what they were saying, but I need to disregard and go back and listen to it. So when we're done tonight, I'm going to go listen. Thank you for reminding me of that.
I won't share my opinion other than I give it a thumbs up, but right. I have little notes as well, but it doesn't take away from the experience. It's a fun repeating song. Yeah. They definitely are working with as much as they had to work with, which is it's fine.
And then I think, I don't know if they were comparing it to when they released Real Love. And I don't know. I do love the Beatles, and I hate to pick it apart too much, but I do have to check it out. I did like Real Love, and again, they can't obviously go back and have John do overdubs or anything, so they got to stick to the. Wow, but one thing that does scare me in the future is if people start tampering with it with AI, that would really bum me out.
It's already happening. All you have to it's right now. It's being used for good. Like, I've been laughing my ass off for some reason. Some teenager or 20-year-old, I don't know who it is, but I love them, decided they were going to perfectly curate SpongeBob and Patrick and the Plankton voice memes, and then make them sing popular songs.
Oh, all right.
So hearing Plankton sing "Wake Me Up Inside" by Evanescence is one of the funniest things I've ever heard.
There could be AI used for good. All right.
So right now I'm enjoying AI. However, there is a possibility of some harm happening, so I'm keeping the eye out. But right now I'm having fun as Hal is flashing up the bright colors as I'm babbling and shaking my rattles.
Yeah, right. No, that's good stuff. Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, but when they come down to use AI for the new Beatles album, then hopefully I'm not around for that. Hopefully I'm not around for that.
But you just happened to be around for, I'm assuming, another phone call after the Rock Hall thing kind of wraps up. And how did you wind up kind of popping on tour with the guys?
Yeah, well, he was using artist management at the time, and so they booked all these tours. I think at the time Zakk Wylde was one of their bands, and they had a lot of artist management, obviously, and so they were doing. I think he had booked like a tertiary market tour, and yeah, again, it was just like, you want to do this? I think it was I'm pretty sure it was an East Coast thing. And I don't know if that's when we met. I don't know if it included that. I think that might have been a little bit later. But so I think the first ones were like Pennsylvania and then upstate New York. And anyway, so yeah, they called to do that. Cause I mean, that show at the Rock Hall was a pretty good success. I mean, It was sold out. The fans really enjoyed it. The interview was great. It was great. It was great that Daniel Ray was there. And so we did that with artists. It started with that summer, maybe down in Florida. I'm not sure. Anyway, but we did that. And again, it was that one weekend. And then we were doing the same thing. After that, 3 of us were from Cleveland. They were just, we were renting, again, the 15-passenger van here at the Cleveland airport and driving to New York, picking up Mark, and then touring. And it kind of just turned 3 shows into, 5 more. It just kind of kept going,
And what's funny is all cool things like that never have like the formal, let me sit you down and give you the offer. It's just, well, I worked with these guys already. Well, let's just see if they want to do some more. Let's just see if they want to do some more.
Yeah.
And so what year would have this been? Like 04, 05?
Yeah, I think it was 04. This was 04. And then we were kind of watching out for it because it became so constant that, right, you at that time you try to pre-plan your life around it because it was so constant at the time where you're trying to make a decision. Well, am I going to do this or work a day job or commit to this? And so you obviously doing that was more fun, so I committed to that. And so you're kind of keeping an eye. And I know at that time Mark was playing overseas with another band in Russia at the time, I think we saw, and in Europe. And so we kind of were seeing where that was going to go or what our limits were. But I mean, we were pretty happy at that time doing what we were doing. And it was for a couple years when I met you, we were in one of those 15-passenger vans and we did the East Coast for, a couple years. And then artists got us out west, I think, in California and Mexico.
Yeah. That was definitely the tour. I posted that up on, as we mentioned earlier, what kind of led to this whole conversation is at that show, didn't ever meet Mark, but at his merch table, he had a bunch of pre-signed drumsticks. So I wound up getting one of those, and you were kind of milling around after the show. And one of the things that for me really personally drew me in was one, I remember you actually making eye contact with me some and like pointing at me some because I was the kid. I had to have been maybe no more. Okay, if this was 05, I was born in 92, so it's like I was young. You spotted the kid and you were pointing him out and including him, and that immediately drew me in. You made it personal. This band that already meant so much to me. And I know that the real guy is back there. You have to essentially win over a bratty kid that doesn't care about all the other guys. Right, I only care about Marky. I don't know who are these guys. I don't care. They're not on the records. I care about Marky.
Right. Yeah.
3 songs in, all of a sudden, I give a fuck about you and I give a fuck about CJ because both of y'all were so interactive with the crowd. You noticed folks and you made the entire experience so much more enjoyable. Yeah. And plus hanging out after the show that I have right over there, and I'll snap a photo of it and include it with the episode and everything. I still have a set list from that show, and I have the back of a sticker card that you signed, and that's the only reason I remember it was from the '05 tours. You signed it '05.
'05. Wow, good for me doing the bookkeeping.
Yeah, look at you. Look at you.
Good for me.
So it's like that. I remember that, and this isn't any sort of slam or jab, but a couple years later, I saw the Misfits. It was the Jerry Fits with Robo and Dez, but
yeah,
you know, I still look back on that show with Marky more fond, even though there was technically the same amount of quote unquote original members. It was the same mentality, almost keep the legacy of the band going. But you guys were just so much more fun. The band was tight. CJ, as a guitar player, knew the moments to emulate the Johnny and moments to do him. And it didn't dawn on me until I became a guitarist later on in life and noticed those little things. And I really do just want to convey that lineup and those shows you did, I'm sure they were backbreaking. I'm sure there was bullshit between, vans breaking down, hotels not being ready, venues not being ready, money not being right. Every single thing that happens with every single band that tours. But I can promise you, if I felt something from it, other people felt something from it. So thank you for doing the sacrifice and going out and singing those songs and performing them the way you guys did, because I don't know, in some weird alternate universe when I didn't see that show, maybe the Ramones aren't my top 3 favorite bands that I will bring to the grave. Maybe they're one of those like, oh yeah, I love the Ramones. Not that die-hard, this is a band I wear. I don't care about the shirts. I maybe have like 2 Ramone shirts. I don't care about wearing the shirts and doing the things. Mm-hmm. But that music is so impactful. And it would be really discrediting if I did not include that show as being one of those pivotal moments when it fully solidified. So for me personally, man, you are right up there with just as important as the rest of the guys.
Wow, that's amazing. I have goosebumps, and I'm honored and thank you.
And I'm not trying to, trying to blow you up, but it's like, I don't get to talk to you much, and you already mentioned that folks don't, really ask you about this stuff. So at least in some sort of public forum, I want to issue that thank you. And to pivot from that, just so you don't get too, goosebumpy and, stuck in it, through those shows, what would you say was probably the coolest venue? Not even necessarily for like the largest crowd, but like what was one of those shows that stuck to you, just being like that was a special show?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, that was a great one. Obviously the Rock Hall was hard to top because that was really great. I'm trying to think. There were some theaters in Florida. If I have to think of one stage that I really loved the most, because of the interaction with the fans and the way it worked out, it was exciting / scary, was in the Hard Rock Cafe in Mexico City.
Okay. I always hear Mexico City is like the place, because
I didn't know what to expect. It's a really cool stage, and it's hard to explain, but the backstage area is above the stage, and there's this like almost a house built above it. I mean, you had multiple rooms. It was long, and the kids had gotten up on the roof. They were trying to get in the backstage area, and I mean, it was like 2 or 3 stories up. So while we were getting ready, and I didn't have any idea what to expect of Mexico City, and it was our first show. And while we were getting ready, they were trying to get in there, banging in the windows, and you can hear how many of them there were on the roof of this place. that it was scary, because if they had all gotten in, I mean, not that they meant any harm, but if they were all, say, trying to get Marky's autograph at once, bad things, people could get trampled, or fall off the roof or whatever. But anyway, so you came down the spiral onto that stage, and it was just packed and crazy. And that one will always be special to me, just because I had and that was like just outrageously exciting. I mean, the energy of the people on the roof and in the crowd, and then it was just wild. And it's a very top-notch stage there at the Hard Rock too.
I'm getting flashback memories of I think it's on Ramones Raw. I think it was also on one of those Ramones Around the World Marky compilation videotapes of when they were in I think it was even Mexico City or somewhere down south, and they were getting in the van and everyone just pounding on that fucking van. Yeah. It was what I mean. It's why, I mean, Mexico, they did that. South America, they did that. At some points to almost a scary level, depending on their mood, because there were some nights where it was just, they were so happy and crazy and found the van and surrounded it. Again, Mexico, South America areas were huge fans. But then I remember there was one show that we played in, I think, Tijuana, and the PA was just like worse than your first PA you ever bought, and the lights were like the worst than the lights in your bedroom, and the sound was horrible, and it was packed. And you got to remember, these kids were paying like their who knows their life savings or something to come see the show. And then I remember that one particular show, you just couldn't continue because there was just no sound. And we were like 3 songs in and we had to leave. Wow.
And they were super pissed, and so they were surrounding the van to get their money back, I think.
Not with adoration this time.
No. So there were times like that where we had to literally hold the crowd back, give them bracelets, say, we'll let y'all get an autograph so that we could even get the van out, because had to start getting people out. So,
wow. Which
I can understand. I mean, they paid all this money and they only got 3 songs, but in the same token, they weren't getting any quality whatsoever.
You hear what's happening right now?
It was bad. There were no vocals. I'm sure. I bet it just sounded like drums, maybe in the dark, because there was like one light,
So somewhere in the middle of all this, Marky releases a record called Start of the Century. Yeah. Which it was a 2-disc set, and disc 1 was like it was basically like the 2 Intruders records remixed, not audio wise, but remixed track order sequence. But then disc 2 featured a live performance with this lineup we're discussing.
Yeah.
When did that kind of fall into the discussion? Was it just like in a van ride and he's just like, hey, I'm gonna record a show and put out a record, or
I'm not sure that was ever discussed, other than it was probably another call from CJ. And I think we might have played a show in Cleveland, and then the idea was proposed. Maybe I knew about it previous. I'm not quite sure. But then the idea was proposed, and we had to do it really fast because we did a show in Cleveland. Mark was leaving to do whatever he was going to go do. And I was actually the very next day moving to Las Vegas. So there was a time crunch there. So, again, they were all songs that we were doing or had done before. But that was, so that was recorded in Cleveland. Yeah.
So I have a tiny theory, and if you don't want to comment, that's totally fine. How live is that record?
It was live. First of all,
is it the Marky Ramone Kiss Alive record?
Yeah. It was,
which is fine. I'm not knocking it, but however, listening to that, I'm going,
Yeah, actually, I was excited to do that, but it was embarrassing because, again, I was leaving for Vegas the next day. Mark was leaving, but it's embarrassing for me for the fact that there were so many songs recorded that day. There were like 25 or 30 songs recorded that day. I don't know about you vocally, but you can't, and we did each song twice.
Right.
So, now you're shooting on 60 songs that we basically recorded that day at least.
And providing that full throttle Joey energy.
Yeah, it was rough, but it wasn't just rough on me. It was rough on everybody, I think, because again, they had to play well, no, I guess they didn't. They didn't have to play them quite as many times as I did. As a matter of fact, now I'm having lonely flashbacks of me being No, that was recorded.
Just you with a single 20-watt light bulb dangling above your head. Okay, I'm going to do I Don't Care again. Let's do it.
Here we go. I don't care. So I think that one may have came out all right, but no, that was recorded all in a studio. All of it, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See, I didn't know if you wanted to completely share that or not. But
I don't think. Yeah, I think at this point,
I think that enough time has passed.
Yeah, enough time has passed, and it was pretty obvious. I mean, it was recorded. But Billy Morris played guitar in Warrant for some tours with Janie Lane. Janie Lane's from this area too. Mm-hmm. And Billy Morris he still does have a different studio here in Cleveland, but he had that studio. And he probably ran sound the night before at the show that we did play. Mm-hmm. And it was just an idea of recording these songs as a live album. And I mean, they were recorded live musically. Yeah. But it was recorded live in a studio. Yeah. Which I think is pretty obvious.
I think, if I'm being completely honest, I think the only bit that made it obvious were the interludes between the songs.
Yeah.
I think honestly, if you guys had just ran it through with a straight 1, 2, 3, 4, I think the only thing I would have even ever suspected is maybe a punch in with like vocal or guitar. Yeah. But but otherwise it probably could have fooled me because, recording technology is, especially by that mid 2000s point was pretty darn good. So, and from my memory of the show, you guys were really tight. So I remember distinctly, my mother and I were at a record shop. We were just thumbing through the Ramones section and we saw that CD and I was like, what is this? We flipped it over and I think you are credited on the back as vocalist on disc 2. And both of us had nearly a conniption fit because we didn't think that anything existed with you guys' lineup. So it's when we actually saw that, we were actually quite happy. But so I just thought that was a rather interesting piece in time and how that is kind of a hard piece to find. It seems to be released digitally, but not available digitally. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's funny that you bring up those interludes. I'm trying to think of one now, but yeah, they definitely stuck out.
The interlude that sticks out to me is right before Blitzkrieg Bop. Yeah. Does that one ring a bell?
Okay. I would know them all once I heard it, but it's been many years.
So right, it's only fresh in my mind because I was listening to it today before this. Right before Blitzkrieg Bop, Marky, you hear the last snare hit is almost like a semi-hollow hit. I think it was Happy Birthday right before, I don't remember. Either way, last snare hit sounded kind of hollow and you hear him go, ah. If there's any drummers out there that have hit their finger with their stick, they know that hurts. Anyway, you guys should know this one is called the Blitzkrieg Bop. That's the main one that sticks out in my mind.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, God.
I love it though.
No, it's great, but that's funny. Now it's bringing back memories. But that's funny. It's funny.
So during this time, you said that you were mentioning moving back or moving to LA. And that also opens up another door of our history. So moving to LA, that is when Black Stars become a thing, correct?
Yeah. It was Las Vegas. Yeah, we moved to Las Vegas, and it was the Dark Stars, which was
Dark Stars.
Yeah, Dark Stars. Which is where we recorded the three songs there. The one that you recorded was the only one of the three that I was happy with. But that being said, it was a really good track, and that one. Of course, Morpheus Black played guitar, Justin on bass, and then a really great studio drummer, Dallas, who played on a lot of great material, other bands' material. He lived in LA. He had a house in LA too. So anyway, he's a great drummer. We recorded that at Les Warner's studio from the Call, and
that's awesome.
Yeah.
You just kind of throw that out there and be like, dude, like, wow, I never knew that.
Yeah, it was wild. Well, when I was on the plane flying to Vegas that day, see, again, this is all the circle of weirdness. It was just constant. And when I was on the plane that day, I got a call, and it was some I don't know. It was a competition or a / show at the Imperial Palace in Las Vegas. And they were like, "You're in on this day or whatever." And so I was in, and I did a Ramone song there. And one of the judges was Les Warner, the drummer from the Call. And so he liked what I did, and so he called me, and then we just kind of developed a relationship right off the bat, right off of moving there. And it was great. He's a really nice guy, a cool guy. He's one of the things that freaked me out. Like when you go to his house and, in his office, he would just have pictures of him and Julian Lennon, cause he played with Julian Lennon and, all these great people, and the Call, obviously. And, but he was so nice and inviting, and we were friends and hung out, and, started to have our own little punk band too. But anyway, in his garage, no one uses their garage out west. He turned his into a studio, and then it's just it's wild. It's like overwhelming. You walk in, and on the right, when you walked into his house, he just had, I think, 10 gold records hanging there.
Casually.
Yeah, just in his, and which was his living room. And they just looked great. But he was such a nice guy. And then, Vegas at that time where a lot of people went that were playing in big bands or touring or whatever, because you could make a living there. So while recording there or just hanging out, a lot of different cool people would come in, and it just became normal. But that's Thinking About You that you recorded was one of the cool thing that came from the Dark Stars out there. And again, it had a little momentum, but again, I moved out of there after a few years, just because my daughter was born, and I wanted to get her out of Las Vegas, basically.
Smart move, I would say.
Yeah.
And again, talking about, and the reason I even mentioned the importance of that specific lineup that Marky toured with you and CJ, being so important, at least to, this young budding punk, and his discovery, after that show, we were kind of looking at it as like, okay, cool, this is Marky's band. And around that time, I want to say that Mom found you on MySpace. And then shortly after when she found you, I had added you. So through MySpace, of course, back in the day, we were able to upload songs and, do whatever. Yeah, it's like, it was actually fun. We could personalize it and, make it look like us. And I just remember one day logging on, and you had posted 2 songs. It was Love Be True and Thinkin About You.
Oh yeah.
Yep,
yeah.
You had posted those 2, and
well, Love Be True is the Knockouts, so that's an example of the Knockouts. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So you had uploaded those 2 songs, and okay, so now I have audio to the Knockouts. I figured that was also Dark Stars, but no, when those 2 songs got posted, I was in that element of I will download everything and anything and put it on my iPod, and it's on shuffle. It's on constant repeat. And those songs landed in. So when I think back at music that inspired me and became earworms and everything else, I think about those songs, which is the reason why, as we've mentioned a few times, when my band The Fill-Ins recorded our last full-length record, we were kind of filling it out. And for us as a trajectory, our guitarist was always like a very heavy metal lead guitarist, and he came from that kind of background. And even our drummer for the first two records, was kind of a metal drummer. Through, of course, constant cycling out our thing, we went through drummers faster than a teenage boy goes through tissue paper. It is ridiculous. Drummers are the weirdest people ever. Yeah. I kept the main three up front together for the longest time, but the drummer got you blink and it was a new guy. Yeah. So during that process, I'm going, okay, I really want us to go a little bit more rock and roll, Kiss, kind of Ramonesy, maybe even more power pop, glam, not necessarily as much glam visual. I don't want to put on any makeup and shit, but let's harken back to those big open chords and catchy melodies and woo-hoo-hoos, shit like that. Well, what's some fun stuff? What's a bridge point that I can get these guys into? I just started jamming some different ideas on the guitar, and all of a sudden I started riffing that E to B, D to A, and I'm like, wait a minute. I know, what is that? I've not listened to this song in forever. I've not touched an iPod in forever, but this song is for some reason ingrained. What the fuck is this? And then it hit me. Oh, fuck. It's that song Thinkin About You by David Divine. And of course, I only have your name to associate it with. I was like, it's by that guy. I pull it back up. I start jamming it, listening to it again. I was like, this is genuinely a fucking great song. I wonder, I sent it to the guys. I was like, would you guys want to play this? And they're like, I don't know about doing covers. I was like, no one's really heard this song. Like, I don't think it got a lot of play. So this would be really cool for us to do. Well, I'll think about, started jamming it. It sounded cool. And then right as we were about to record, I was like, fuck, I think David's on my Facebook. And we had not conversed a whole lot. We would get in each other's inboxes every so often. Hey, how you doing? How's life? Okay, catch you later. Bye. Right. I didn't know how you were as a musician in your headspace with that kind of stuff. And I was like, I don't want to just grab the song, credit him, and then be like, hey, look what I did, and then him be like, bro, what the fuck? So it's I really wanted to be able to reach out to you. Dude, enough time's passed, I'll tell you now, I was so nervous to send you that message to ask if we could cover that song. I wrote that email 3 different times because I'm just I don't want him to like it. I don't want it to come off a certain way. It's I wanted it to come off as a way of this song meant a lot to me, to the point of I tried to write something and I started playing it. It's instead of me ripping it off, can I just cover it?
That's yeah, awesome. That's phenomenal. No, I'm glad. I'm glad you reached out. I don't know what I'm sure I said. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Without within an hour, you in so many words, you were like, you didn't have to ask. And I'm like, yes, I did. Yeah, yes, I did.
Yeah. That was awesome. Yeah. That was awesome that you did that. That's actually that song. We had that song. It was a perfect mix where it was the first time ever in my life. It had the perfect guitar sound that I've always been looking for. I've always been looking for a sort of Johnny Thunders sloppy but put together type, and it had that. And then the guy that was running the board decided to make it better, and then they brought it to me and they're like, how do you like it? And it sounded like Poison, and I was like, I don't like it.
Oh,
not that I don't like Poison, but I'm saying that's
for what you were wanting to do. No,
yeah, it was obviously the words in the song. It was a trash. You needed a trashier sound in it, and so then it took the next week, and they tried to put the guitar sound back to what it was before the guy fixed it. and it's better, but man, it was a lot. I wish I had that original. But
I find that so odd and poetic because I hadn't really talked about this much, mainly because life got so kind of fucked up and weird around that time, and I never talked to anyone outside of my own circle about it, and I didn't want it to be like, well, here's me in my life, but it actually connects to this. We ran through the same problem during that recording session of that record.
oh wow, that's funny.
That's what's so weird about it. So essentially what happened on that, so again, I had, by my own mistake, but almost out of necessity, I'd kind of surrounded myself with a bunch of metal people, including our producer. He actually had like a lot of ties with like Dimebag and stuff. Like he knew people. Like he wasn't, I don't know what he's doing now, but he knew what he was doing. But through that, he didn't appreciate the fact that, like, for this record, I was like, hey, how about, like, we put some 12 string and, like, maybe some acoustic underlayment to, like, you know, make the sound bigger. And, you know, I've got this female vocalist, Kelsey. I want her to, like, get up and sing some background vocals on a song. And I've got a tambourine. I want to use it, you know, and stuff like that. He started getting real prickly at that. He was just like, oh, I don't know. So that we started butting heads on that. And then talking about you need someone to kind of kick you in the ass and tell you, hey, what you've been doing is wrong. This was my to pull it back to that. This was my process on that. This producer knew that I wasn't necessarily the strongest vocalist. So instead of finding ways for me to become a better vocalist, he went, well, just scream that part. Well, just push it, just push that part. When I wanted to try and do maybe, you know, it's the quickest thing I could pull to at the time. I was like, well, no, I want to do more Paul Stanley-esque things. Help me find my range for a Paul Stanley thing. Well, yeah, just push the vocal. So half of the time on that record, I don't like my vocal because the entire time the guy in charge of the record button keeps telling me, well, just do it angrier. Just do it angrier.
just be madder.
Yeah, and I'm like, but this isn't a mad song.
Yeah, no, this is a celebration. This song.
Yeah, like all of these songs on this record I'm wanting to do are like celebration fun songs, and like, you know, this one is no different. And it got to the point where he started doing the anti of what I wanted, where it was, I would do a take, and he would just get on the call back and go, well, are you happy with that? I'm like, well, was there some spots? What do you think of the take? Well, it's up to you. Now you're just not being any help.
That's not helping me out.
Yeah, you're being from 0 to 100. Like, I need somewhere in the middle, my friend. So all that to say, a year later, we went to Atlanta instead of recording here in Charlotte, and the guy that recorded us there was actually a professional and knew power pop and rock and roll, and he went, bro, quit fucking screaming at me. You're doing this all wrong. And I went, I don't know any other way. He goes, you can't sing? I'm like, I think I can. He goes, well, try. And then I did, and he's just like, okay, you're like 75% there. Hold on. And then we had like a whole training session. So no, yeah, you just sometimes need that one guy just to kick you in the ass and be like, forget what you've been told for the last 5 years. Learn something on the fly and do it and have it on recording forever. No pressure.
Right. Yeah. Do it perfect. Yeah. Do
it perfect. With Dark Stars, did you wind up getting a lot of that released outside of like the MySpace era?
Well, no, I think there was actually, that's again, that song I loved. Again, once the guitar was sort of fixed again, put back to place, I really enjoyed that recording. It didn't get a lot of it's been played sort of on a couple different radio stations, but the first problem was when I moved back to Cleveland, they didn't, one of the theys didn't want me to have like a clean copy of it, you know, so that I could maybe market it myself or make money off it, I think.
Yeah, because the copy you had and uploaded was compressed.
Yeah. And so I've actually never owned a clean copy of that. And I I think I possibly have one now, but I don't know. I had one previous that I had, but like the last 20 seconds were cut off, and that's just because a buddy of mine saved it from maybe the MySpace days or something. Yeah. But I've never had a clear copy of that because I think it was a thing where one of the guys thought I might just call it, a solo thing and use it myself, which I had every right to, although they did help in writing the music.
No, and that makes sense, but at the same time, enough time's passed, guys. If y'all are listening to this, let's get the track. Let's get the track out there.
Can I please have the track? No, it's been like a hostage track. Yeah, actually, there's one other one. Someone re-recorded, Pricilla, a band called Pricilla, re-recorded one of my cheap vinyl songs called Blame, which is excellent. If I don't say so, I mean, it's one of those ones where it was just good writing. It just was really good writing. And believe me, I have a lot that aren't excellent, but this one was, and so much so that this band wanted to record it, but I don't think I have a clean copy of that one either. And it's just one of those where the storytelling and the vocals came out good. So those are two songs that I hope to someday have clean copies of. Yeah. But you guys did an excellent job, and
well, I would I now look back at it with objective ears, and there's things I wish I could have done better, but still getting your blessing and even you humoring me and being like it was good still meant a whole lot to me. It's because
it was good.
Well, it's because especially during that time, it was a little bit of a scary period because, our previous record definitely had like some grit, and our guitarist was messing with a whammy bar during the intro and shit, so it's like to shift from that all of a sudden to, right. That there was a little bit of nervousness, going into it all. So like I wasn't sharing the record with a lot of people, I think I sent it only to, I had like usually a collective of like 10 people I would send the record to ahead of time, be like, let me know what you think. I think 4 people got this record. I was keeping it under lock and key. Like I was nervous as hell. Yeah. So, even just getting that little bit of like, it's good, just ease that nerve like 10%. I was like, okay, good. Well, at least the guy that, gave me the permission said, is at least lying to me and said it's good. He's a really good salesman. I appreciate his friendship.
That's good, man. It's great. Yeah, no, it was good. And actually that song comes up a lot. Like, I'm playing a guitar in a band now, and we're doing one show in December this year. But that song, whenever there's someone can't think of an idea or something we want to do, that song's always brought up. That chord progression's always brought up. Oh, that song is just. Oh, in fact, they were playing at practice not too long ago as an example of. When you're looking for like a really kind of high energy rock song, that really does have it. That song really does have that, and so.
And sometimes it's the simplicity, it's like, how many songs, kind of follow a similar chord progression, but it's like mix that with your specific vocal melody. The specific, tonality and where you decide to go during the chorus and during the verse is what makes it catchy. And that's the reason why I don't like my version. And that's why you guys still have the superior version. Yeah. But that also goes back to what also makes you a good vocalist and someone that has genuinely, I can say, is inspiring because you have inspired at least one guy. Because between the Marky Show, Knockouts, and Dark Stars, 3 different things you've done have inserted and made their way into his little earworm and has kind of inked its way out in different creative aspects that I've had that maybe I didn't even notice until after the fact. So, I feel it, there is a lot of struggle and sacrifice that goes into creating all this, and sometimes you sit back and just go, well, damn it, was all that even worth a damn? And every so often I'll get a message where it's just like, okay, yeah, it was worth it. And And it honestly kind of surprised me and upset me that folks hadn't kind of wanted to reach out and discuss this kind of stuff with you, simply because it has meant a lot to me personally. And that's the reason why I wanted to talk about all that stuff today.
No, I appreciate all very kind words. And again, for people listening, that's why you do this. If it's one person, right? If it's one person that says it moved you. I mean, even if you don't have that one person, it's worth it. If you're just doing, a lot of times, again, like I said in the beginning, I was trying to be somebody else vocally. Even if I had gotten it, that wouldn't have been satisfying for me, right? You have to develop your own kind of style and art, and it might not even be popular and nobody might listen, but man, if you're kind of happy with that artwork that you're putting out, that makes it well worth it. And if someone like Alex says that kind of stuff to you, the whole thing was worth it, man. It was just, somebody got it, or, maybe inspired somebody. That's like massive bonus on top of all this. So I really do appreciate that.
Well, I would consider you a true artist because, this isn't even touching on your photography.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, I'm a weird artist. I'm a weird artist. And I like to jump around. I can't. Some people say just focus on this. I cannot do that because I just have this drive to learn new things and create new things all the time. And sometimes, right, it's a photography or music. I could not just do one thing. I would get I don't know. I need something new all the time. I need, and again, keeping the old stuff, that you've always done, but I always need to do, new ways to express yourself. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I love it, man. Between your photography, your music, and now the broadcasting, because you've been doing your live streams on Facebook and everything else too. I love it. It feels comforting because, as I kind of mentioned earlier, kind of without a band right now. And a lot of that comes from, it feels like ever since lockdown, folks just aren't as driven to be creative. Right. And it's not just a me thing. Like I used to really look at it as a singular thing, like, oh, people don't want to play the music I want to play. No one wants to be in a band with me. Self-pity bullshit all day long. Yeah. But ever since lockdown and COVID hit, so many bands locally and nationally are having such a hard time keeping it together.
Yeah. We're in a weird place. Like I said, I'm playing guitar with the band. We're doing one show this year. It was like, it took all we could to muscle that one show. Now I know that other people, do it for money with cover stuff, and they've been able to keep it together somewhat because it's financially, but this obviously isn't that kind of situation. It's original band. Pricilla, they had some really great tunes, good band to look up but so, it's hard. Everything's harder now. I know I can relate to what you're saying. I'm not quite sure why. Either people just got in patterns, but right. But anyway,
and I'm definitely guilty of that.
Yeah,
I definitely fell in patterns and ruts and stuff that it's honestly taken me until a few months ago to kind of really work myself out of. And one of those was my workflow. I had a fantastic workflow heading into lockdown, and I thought I was going to be the whiz at everything, because guess what? I'm at home all the time now. Right. No, that's not what happened. It went tits up fast. Right. And it's only taken till like the last few months for me to like really get like my personal workflow, personal life, work life, all that balanced out to where I can actually enjoy and have a life again.
Yeah. That's how I got into doing the YouTube show. Is right, lockdown, and we were talking in Discord, and I said, let's take these conversations onto YouTube at that time, and we did that for a little while, and then kind of changed the structure. But I got into it because my first love was always talk radio. Always. I mean, before I was even like 10, the parents would say, go to sleep. All right, boom. I'd wait till everybody's quiet. Then I'd dial in some weird AM radio station where people were talking about anything than the crap I heard all day long. It just bored me. So, and that's where I found Art Bell eventually and stuff like that.
Nice.
But so YouTube was kind of a place where you could do that, where you could have on different guests and hear different things. And so I get to satisfy that part of my oldest passion, which was talk radio. Yeah.
No, and I fully understand that too, because through all this, I almost kind of had to take a mental break from the band thing because I was driving myself insane. And that's kind of what made me fall back into rediscovering some of the stuff I really loved and enjoyed, as, a young teen. And a lot of that came from revisit, like I put away Misfit stuff for the longest time, and part of that was like revisiting that and enjoying, diving back into that world some, and then all of that literally morphed from like I opened up a box and I had like old CDs, memorabilia and stuff, and in that box was that drumstick. And it's like I remember just like looking at it, I'm just like, oh wow, I forgot I had that, and just kind of set it to the side. And the more I started working with some of the Misfit stuff, I remember just how much that stuff kind of meant to me growing up. It was spooky, it was weird, it was like Kiss but scary, and it was punk too. It was like, ooh, this is really fun for my young brain. And all of a sudden it was fun for me again to like go down that path and then look up the old videos and go in, and I found the old set list and just thinking back at all those old memories and times. So that's going to be kind of maybe a theme ongoing with some of these episodes, is it's been really fulfilling without having the band around, kind of revisiting what drew me to creating that music in the first place, because that trajectory isn't always the same for a lot of people. Sometimes it's, oh, I picked up this record and it changed my life. Well, a lot of different things changed my life, and certain names may be similar, but not exactly the same. Like this show, for instance, the Ramones are a huge part, but a David Devine plays a huge part just like that. So kind of going down those paths. So I really enjoyed this conversation, man. And I do want to thank you tremendously for taking the time out and just chatting with us on this.
Anytime, man. Thank you very much. This was a lot of fun.
Of course.
Yeah, anytime. Yeah, I had a great time.
Well, before we get on out of here, you know what we got to do. We got to dig on into our Spotify playlists and figure out what the hell we've been listening to.
What you listening to, son?
I don't think you like it.
Well, why not? I like this new generation of music. Where did you record this?
I bought it at the mall.
What that person on your tape has is a medical disorder.
All right, David, what the hell have you been listening to?
Yeah, well, always since I was a kid, the staple was the Dogs D'Amour with Tyler. Their music is like a pub style English rock, Rolling Stones mix. Always go back to them. But I've been listening to a lot of alternative music lately. Just on the satellite radio for whatever reason. I've been really getting into the different sounds. But one song that's stuck in my head right now is an old song called Bela Lugosi's Dead by Bauhaus.
Oh my God, yes.
And
yes.
For some reason that I've been in a science fiction-y kind of mood anyway, which I always am, but now it's been ramped up. So I would say, Bela Lugosi's Dead by Bauhaus.
Excellent. No, that's a really good one, especially on this coming out of Halloween season. The go-to Halloween record for me was always The Damned Phantasmagoria.
Oh, there you go.
Mixed with the Friday the 13th EP.
Or science fiction double feature. I played that over and over recently. I should have said that too. Yeah. I've been just really into sci-fi, like freakishly.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Have to dig into my brain catalog, and we'll have to talk some sci-fi one day.
Yes. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I'm literally remodeling my whole basement so that it has a sci-fi theme right now.
Oh, hell yes. I love it.
Old movie posters and displaying even going back to like German silent films, I mean, I've been like, that deep in it. So, yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, I do have 2 recommendations. They're all singles. I've gone back and started listening to Cold Chisel again, and that's been pretty fun. And Goodbye Astrid Goodbye, the 7-inch version, is fucking rocking. It is really cool.
What is it? What is that one?
Band Cold Chisel, and it's Goodbye Astrid Goodbye, the 7-inch version. That one is really rocking. And the only reason I even discovered it was I guess he's on tour right now, the vocalist, and his current pianist recorded like this fast little TikTok or something, and this dude was just wailing on this thing. I mean, just like both hands just like slamming it up and down, but just like rocking it. And I'm just like, what the fuck band is this? So that's what led me into that.
Oh, good recommendation then. I'll have to check that out.
And then obligatory shout out, mainly because of all the Kiss shit up on the wall. I have to mention it. There is a new band called Amber Wild, fronted by one and only Evan Stanley, Paul Stanley's offspring. They're currently doing the last few dates with Kiss on the End of the Road tour. And as promotion for that, they released 2 singles. And just listen. It's not a Kiss clone. That's what I can say. The positive is, in comparison to everything else that's out there today, this ain't bad. I would hand this to another 13-year-old and go, hey man, check this out. I think you'd enjoy it. That's going to be the market. Classic Kiss fans and rock fans. It sounds a little Foo Fighters-y. So it may kind of fall out of the classic rock fan realm, but, you know, fans of 90s alternative and Foo Fighters kind of style rock, it kind of hinges on that, I'd say. So
interesting.
It's at least, like you said, it is interesting, and that's why I throw that little shout out. It hadn't gotten a lot of press, so I'd be interested to see what the listeners and fans think of that.
Right on.
Which, side note, if you have any comments about this episode or anything, definitely hit us up on any of the social medias. David's is going to be in the episode description, along with his YouTube channel with all his broadcasting. Of course, I've got to do up all the proper promo. People are just going to click that shit and go right to you, man. It's going to be super easy. Right and on. Speaking of super easy, if you want to chat with me and any of the other guys on the network, sign up for the Discord. Link is also in the episode description. See, we do all the housekeeping at the end. We don't bore people at the beginning. They tune out after all this. But again, thank you so much, David. What would you like to specifically plug? Because I know that you've got the show coming up at the end of the year with Pricilla. Yeah, that's December 1st in Cleveland at the Hi-Fi, maybe. But that's maybe, possibly, but you could look that up. But the other thing is my YouTube channel is David Devine Broadcasted, and we do a couple of shows a week, and I bring in interesting guests from aliens to authors to music to you name it. Anybody that's got something interesting to say, I like to interview them, and so that's that. So check me out there. Come subscribe, watch a live show, and there you have it. Absolutely. Excellent. So guys, again, thank you so much for tuning in for this first video episode. Hopefully it turned out okay. I won't know until the fucking edit. This might be the only video episode I ever do. But until next time, check out the other shows on the network: The Couch Potatoes, History You Forgot, Cryptic Conspiracy Cult, This Fucking Guy. And if you're a Kiss fan like I am, you can check out the backlog episodes of No Time to Turn. It's 40 episodes for 50 years of their career. We go album by album, year by year throughout the episodes, so it was pretty fun. So until next time, thank you guys for tuning in.
You've been listening to the Something Good Network. If you liked what you heard, you can follow us on Instagram and check out the other great shows on the network. Link is in the episode description.